Everyone? Remember me, I'm the one who makes you redo it if it's not a good response. Good evening, everyone! Thank you. I am Vicki Kim. I'm one of the assistant principals. I work with the guidance department, and so that means I work with the counselors. Also specifically, good for you to know, I am attached to Charles Taylor. Administrators are attached to counselors, and we cycle through with our students, and so I will also be the 9th grade administrator for your students next year, as with Mr. Taylor in the guidance counselor. So welcome to our course selection night. We had a great time the last 3 days. So on Monday and Tuesday we were at JLS. Today we were at Jordan. Tomorrow we're going to finish up at Jordan. Next week on Monday we'll be at Sherman for a very small handful of students. But it was so much fun being with your kids. They asked fantastic questions. They're so thoughtful about this stuff and, very honest. I asked them all if they were excited for high school, and I had maybe about 1/3 raise their hands. I asked if they were nervous. I had about the other 1/3 raise their hands. And then I said, and who doesn't care? And I had a handful of students raise their hands. So I appreciated their honesty. So it was a good time. They had a lot of questions, and Mr. Taylor went over the course selection process with them as well. We wanted to be sure to give you the same information that we gave your students at middle school, so that when you go home tonight or in the next couple of weeks, you can have thoughtful conversations and make some decisions about what courses you want your students to take next year. All right, so welcome. We're going to present to you the same presentation we gave your kids. I know there are out-of-district folks here whose kids we haven't met yet, and so we will meet those kids as well, so don't worry. And we have information for you as well. And then after we're done the presentation, we'll leave some time for questions, and I'm sure there will be many, so we will be here to answer them. And hopefully you'll leave tonight feeling good about and clear about the process, all right? This is Mr. Charles Taylor. He is your student's counselor for next year. He got mad at me when I put this picture in, but you know what? I really like it. So Mr. Charles Taylor, this is his 7th year at Palo. He's the counselor right now for seniors. He will be your student's counselor next year. And he's a Star Wars fan. I told the kids that was me in the Stormtrooper outfit, but they didn't. All right, so without further ado, here's Mr. Charles Taylor.
Thank you very much. Welcome, you guys. Again, my name is Charles Taylor. So I'm going to go over a couple of things tonight. We're going to start with our guidance model so you understand how that works. And then we'll talk about the courses you're signing up for, how that relates to graduate requirements and college eligibility. It's a lot of information. This is kind of like an initial presentation. You'll get more and more information and hear some of the same stuff again as we progress through the years. How many parents here, just out of curiosity, it's first time student through high school? Show of hands. Oh wow, more than that. Okay, perfect. Okay. So again, you have lots of supports to kind of understand the process. Things have definitely changed when I'm in high school. When I present to them, I'll tell some of the stuff that we did, and a lot of times they'll laugh because things are completely different. But with that, it's just an update of what we're doing and where we're going. To start off, I'm going to talk about, since it's such academically focused, the supports you guys have in place with our model. So at Palo, we have what we call a 3-tiered system. That's different from the traditional guidance model like when I was in high school. You have maybe one guidance counselor, 500 students, and you guys found a way to kind of make it work. And I've worked in that model before. It can be very effective. We have a different setup. We kind of split duties to 3 different areas to give more layers of support and access for students and parents. Kind of a quick overview. So the main support is your teacher advisor. So that's going to be a teacher assigned to students in advisory capacity. They meet with them for 9th grade once a week, and it's just to address anything that's going on. Need a locker, need help with class, friends, family, that's the primary point of contact for them in 9th grade, focusing on transition, okay? Also primary contact for parents. You guys have questions about things going on for your students. That's the initial person you can contact. If they don't know the answer, they'll get you in touch with the person who does. So that's what's different about our model. They'll have a 9th grade TA, and then they'll have a 10 through 12 TA after that. But right now, we're going to focus just on the 9th grade transition person. After that is the guidance counselor, so that's my role. So how I fit into this is I give support to a lot of different people to kind of bring things together. Definitely the TA, definitely the teachers, primarily your students, and you as parents. So students can come into my office anytime to check in. If they have a class, we prefer them to come during a break or a prep or something like that. But they can come in to us. So the TA meets in classes, we have the guidance office. So they can come in and see me. If I'm not available, we have an excellent secretary, Ms. Tonga, who will set up appointments or have them sign up to come see me, or if it's an emergency, they text me if I need to come out of another meeting to come meet with them. Same thing, I'm there to answer questions, to kind of help things transition, that kind of stuff. If they're in situations they're having a hard time communicating with a teacher or what have you, we can go in and help that process as well. So it's really about bringing things together and communicating with all of us. So that's where the guidance counselor works. In this model, we loop around, like Ms. Kim says, so the two of us will be there, supports with your students, 9th through 12th grade, okay, along with an advisor. Last piece is our college advisors. They'll have that in junior year. Their goal is really to help navigate the process for post-secondary options. So what they're doing after high school. So if it's applying to a four-year college, if it's a two-year college, if it's a gap program, which has become really popular, what have you, our college and career advisors will help them with that. They'll work closely with the advisor and myself to address the issues the students are navigating, or topics, questions, things like that. We're looking at interest development and connecting that to possible areas of study in college. So that begins with junior years when they'll have access to those guys. All right. Now the nitty gritty. Okay, so here's the minimum eligibility requirements. What we're going to talk about now is what classes they have to take, what does that fulfill for high school, what does it fulfill for college. Before we go into that, I'm just going to look at why we're looking at this at all and what some of the changes. So with my current senior class, this is the first class, and every class thereafter now, our requirements have been adjusted. So what we've done is we've aligned our graduation requirements to match that of our public college system. So we have two systems, one system, two different types of schools. We have our CSU, California State University, and we have our UC schools. So what you see on there under graduation, it's going to talk about subject areas, how many years of that you have to do to graduate, and then the corresponding amount of years for college. They are fully aligned. In some areas, we actually exceed what the college is asking for. So why the hoopla? Because this has been adjusted. So that's why I want to make sure everyone's clear on what we're doing and why we're doing it. A couple things to highlight. Far right, we see C, S, U, U, C. You see a term there, A through G. Has anyone heard of A through G before? A through G courses or A through G requirements? Just show up there. Experience. Okay, so all this, what they've done is our college system has attached a letter to every subject area. So if they say A through G requirements, they're just talking about your course requirements you need to take and pass to be eligible for a four-year college. So A is assigned to history, B is assigned to English, C is assigned to math, so on and so forth. So your students will come home with the form with the courses on there, and it'll say on there, so area A, B, C, that kind of stuff. So it's not as complicated as it sounds, but just so you know what that means, APG courses. So that's up there as well. Main thing we told them the last couple of days presenting the difference in high school is that you earn credits. So how do you earn credits? It's by passing courses. That's how you start to meet requirements. Technically, to earn credits in high school, the grade of a D- or higher fulfills that. Okay, just so they know. We also told them that if you're in that situation, those are the people I just talked about before, along with the teachers you want to work with. Because that's our job, is to help you get into a better situation academically, whatever your goal is in the class. But technically, they earn credit every time they pass the course. To meet the requirements for eligibility for our public system, they have to have a grade of C- or higher. So our college system does not acknowledge a grade below that. It's almost like you haven't met the requirement. So we also discussed if you ever have an issue, what would you do? If there's an offered, you would take the course again to obtain a grade high enough to meet the requirements. So you have credit for graduation. You have years of requirements for college. They don't necessarily look at credits, they want you to fulfill a certain amount of years by attending a certain grade in college. All right, so I almost went into student mode and started to ask this question. Let me keep going. So basically on this, looking into it, English, 4 years. So that's fully aligned with college. They want you to have 4 years as well. We also discussed what classes you're taking in freshman year. So you have 4 years of high school. Obviously, freshman year, you have an English course that's going to count towards your requirement for college. So kind of dispelling the myth that grades don't count in the 9th grade year. So you definitely want to focus, get the support, ask questions. The main thing I would push for you guys is communication. Like, your students just come, let us know. You know, that's our job as a teacher's job. If they need assistance, that we can pull them in and just help them with that. Okay. So this is pretty simple. Social studies. How many years do you need to graduate college or high school in social studies? 4. Don't be shy. 4. Yes. How many do you need for the college system? 2. So in that area, we actually exceed what they're asking for. So in social studies, they'll have world history freshman year. They'll have a combination class in 10th grade, a semester of government and a semester of contemporary world to make 1 full year. Junior year is U.S. history, and then senior year they have econ, and then they can pick what we call social studies elective. And there's a ton of courses on it they can pick to fulfill that. For the college system, we're looking at 2 years in particular. It's going to be world history, again, first taken in 9th grade, and then U.S. history taken in junior year. That's how it works. We'll just kind of go through this. Math, 3 years through Algebra 2. What I tell most people is I wouldn't necessarily focus on the years. I would just look at the core class. Algebra 2 meets the graduation requirement. So that's your first goal. Once you get to that, you can check that off. Okay? Algebra 2 also meets the minimum requirement for eligibility for the college system. So that's always the first goal. After that, where do you take it? So in that category, we see our first little parentheses. If you look over there, it says under the college system, math, 3 years through Algebra 2. That part's would be in the middle there. And then it says 4. Anything in parentheses like that is what's called recommended. So we talk to the students about required. So that's what meets the requirement and what's recommended. So every time you hit recommended, it's a conversation. Once you hit the required, then as a team, we're looking at how do you go to the next level. What's the next level course that's appropriate for you? Math has a ton of options with that based on what range and that kind of thing. So what they're recommending is a 4th year class, something past Algebra 2. Everyone's going to be different in that because people start in different spots. But the thing, just remember, the 8-2 is what you want to do. Last one on this screen, lab science. How many years to be eligible? How many years to graduate high school in Colorado? Of science you need? 2. All right. So for the college system, same thing. 2 years to be eligible. How many are recommended? 3. So it's the same thing. After you finish your first 2 years, they split the category into 2 areas, biological science and physical science. The way our system is set up, you go into biology first year, let that off. The next year of chemistry, you've met the requirement by the end of 10th grade. After that, conversation, science teacher, advisor, parents, what do we want to do next if we want to take that 3rd year? Okay. So the recommended doesn't mean if you don't do it, you're not going to get in. It's just something they're saying that if you can continue to move forward, it looks good when they do their admissions process. So that's a discussion. We have tons of options in science. It's very popular. You can kind of pick which direction you want to go. All right, next one, world language. The thing remember that is through level 2. So the level 2 course meets the graduation requirement. The level 2 course also meets the minimum requirement for eligibility. So that could be whatever language we offer, they're taking through level 2. They go Spanish 1, Spanish 2, boom. Met the requirement for eligible. Meet the graduation requirements and they're eligible. Again, parentheses there, recommended is 3 years, so then we look at, can we move to a level 3? Is that clear? That one? Question we get a lot is, what if I start at level 2? Perfect. That means right after that, you're hitting the minimum. We still want to see if we want to go further. We want to try and get 2 consecutive years in the same language with that. And again, some people start at different areas depending on their language exposure. PE always gets a chuckle. 2 years is required for high school. We talk about all different things for PE. How do I get a prep? All this kind of stuff. What's the real period about? It's a fun conversation. You just gotta remember that they need to do 2 years. 9th grade PE is kind of state of California requires certain things we do. After that, you have 10th grade. You have a few more options. You can do PE 10, which is just like PE 9. We have dance. We have yoga now. We have PE athletics. So there's a couple options they have. Not required for college though. Okay, that's just the high school graduate requirement. How many years of visual performing arts to graduate? One full year. Once you hit that, you met the requirement. Very popular category. Many students will do 3 to 4 years in that. As I've been reviewing transcripts now, especially our band kids, that 4 straight years of band, that's awesome. But technically, they hit the requirement freshman year. Okay. Same thing for the colleges. So the thing is, once you hit the year, doesn't mean you have to stop. Keep going if you like it. That's perfect. We want you guys to enjoy what you're taking in school. Okay, next one. Career Technical Ed. I'm going to highlight that as the class. The subject area that some kids get confused with visual performing art. So the thing about visual performing art, 1 full year, same course. CTE, 1 full year, you can mix and match. So on the sheet you're going to come home with, you'll see we'll have some year-long CTE courses, and we'll have some semester courses. That's perfect. It allows them to dabble and get some exposure. State of California wants us to offer courses related to potential careers, just to expand horizons, exposure, that kind of stuff. So we have our culinary program. If you want to learn to cook, you can take a semester of that. But in the back of your mind, you know there's a business you're going to run at some point. You want to take a business law class, you can take a semester of that. They both have semester offerings. So as long as the two add up to 10 units, 10 credits for a full year, by the time you graduate, that's totally fine. Again, it's an area where students will take multiple classes. Our programming classes are embedded in that, so you'll see kids do level 1, level 2, level 3, that kind of stuff. All they need is, though, the year to meet the requirement. Not required for college. That's a high school related area. Next is living skills. That's our health course here at Palo. 1 semester is required. So they can program living skills after 9th grade, whenever it fits. That's when the advisor, when they go through a 4-year plan, so that's basically what you're going to take over for 4 years. They'll plan at what point they want to see the living skills class. Don't switch it yet. So the last part, electives. 220 credits to graduate. So what we just talked about before can add up to 180 to 190 credits. What happens to electives? That's where kids get a little confused. So we simply explain to them, anytime you meet a requirement, you've met the minimum requirement and you take more, you elect to take another class in that subject area, that counts as an elective. So going back to my kids at 4 years of band, that first year, 9th grade, they met the requirement. But they elected to take more years in that. Those next 3 years of 30 credits actually goes towards the electives. Does that make sense? Okay. You'll see the same thing in science, language, a lot of subject areas. If I go Spanish 1, year 1, Spanish 2, second year, how many credits I need in that area? Do you guys remember? So 20 credits, 2 years. That's Spanish 3. It's a language class, but it's still going towards my elective category. So I've maxed out what I need in the language. Same thing with science. Bio and chem, met the requirement. I'm taking that physics, because they recommend a 3rd year. That technically is going towards the elective. So they're actually a lot easier to click off than people realize. All right. Typical freshman schedule. So when we talk about credits, we showed them 7 classes, 10 credits a class, that's 70 units. 70 units, if you took 7 classes, 4 years, that's 280. You're way over. So we wanted them to see, like, 9th and 10th grade, you can go 7 to kind of get a feel for what's going on, get some experience, and then you taper down going into junior year and senior year. A lot of my students took 6 classes junior year in a prep. That's what we recommend. Just because regular those classes, you get that prep to prepare, get ready, that kind of stuff. Study. And then a lot of seniors have 6 to 5 classes for senior year. So in 9th grade, what they'll do is history, English 9A, math, bio or bio H, their world language, whatever level that is, the PE course, and they get to pick. Do they want to do their CTE now, or do they want to do their visual performing arts now? It's up to them. They can flip-flop that later on. One thing when they're signing is to make sure if they're doing a CTE course as their 7th class, they want to make sure that if they're doing a semester course, they want to make sure they have 2 classes. They want to add it to 7 total courses. Sometimes they'll just pick one, not realize it's a semester course, and there's a gap that we have to fill in, which sometimes it's not necessarily, they're not going to know what they like, so they want to put that in. What's next on there? Okay, so before I get into that, let's talk about types of courses. So we explained to them the difference between college prep, an A-lane class, or advanced, an H, which is honors, or an AP course, so they're aware. A lot of that is just what the balance is. The difference is time demand. So college prep course is a course that just prepares you for college. Okay, so it's something that the colleges have approved, that they can take that and meet a requirement. So a perfect example on the sheet, this is the sheet we handed out to them, is history. Everyone lands in history. It's not an A, it's not an H, it's a college prep course that meets the requirement. It's one of our core classes, so we refer to them as core classes. After that, you see an A, that's usually an advanced course. The difference is going to go a little bit deeper with material, therefore a little faster because you're covering more material in the same amount of time. Okay. After that, you have an honors course. So honors classes are definitely going to go deeper, a little faster. That's your highest level of a high school class that we offer. We tell students with those courses, you just want to be prepared. Time demand class. So you don't want to go in thinking, no one should go into any class with this, but sometimes you get into the habit of kind of just studying the night before and taking the test. The amount of material covered, way too much. They want to make sure they're in a good study pattern where they're studying not just homework, but studying throughout the week going into the assessment or the test. Last one is AP Advanced Placement. That is a college content course. You just got to respect the title kind of thing. It's going to be definitely faster to covering more material in a shorter amount of time. So it's like, if you're going to pick that class, perfect. Find something that you like. I wouldn't just pick it because someone said to take the course. You want a class that you're willing to spend the required time to be functional in the class. And that goes for all the AH and AP, but the study schedule, you definitely want to have that in place for any class you take. Okay, so this is the sheet we gave them. What it pretty much talks about kind of some rules up top. Then it goes through each subject area and the course options they have. So world history, not much of a choice, that's already populated. They'll go through science, they'll say bio or bio H. They'll go through math, and then after that, language. All 3 of those, we request that you have a conversation with your current teacher about appropriate placement. Okay, so that's going to be for the science, what's the best course between what we're offering, the language, what's best next for the student, and definitely the math. The math teacher will actually give us a recommendation later at some point, but you want your student to have that conversation to see what's appropriate going from the program we're in currently and to the Palo program next year. PEs are at the bottom, so PEs you have either regular PE during the day. It's by semester, so you have to put in 2 PE numbers. So there's 9/11 and 9/12, that's semester 1, semester 2, and it's written on there. Or you have a 0 period PE. Let's talk about 0 period for a second. It is very popular, don't ask me why. We have a lot of kids just like to get up early and work out, that's great. If that's the student that they are, you need to sign up for 0 period. If you do not like getting up early, 7 to 10, time to start? 7 to 10, then it's not the class for you. Okay, just saying. After it's all set up, sometimes it's hard to move back into the day. Like, this isn't right, I made a mistake, I'm going to go to the day. We just might be full. We're blessed at the scenes right now with students. So as they're thinking about it, they just want to pick something that they can actually do consistently. So that's how PE is set up. I will talk about the preps real quick. If you do have a 0 period PE course, since you can only have 7 classes during the day, that gives you a prep during our 1 through 7 period day. Does that make sense? Okay, so that pulls out, and it's random where it lands. It's just where it works for the classes you're taking. So you get a period off. You cannot fill that with another class. We're not trying to move students now to 8 courses. We want to keep them at 7. That prep is because we're getting them so early. Okay. One question off of that we get a lot was the preps for PE. So some of the confusion, students think that the sport gives you PE credit. It's not how it works. Your PE class is one thing that gives you PE credit. Okay? If you're playing a sport, that's perfect. You make a team, coach will fill out a roster, and give it to your PE teacher. Once that teacher has that, the our student decides that okay, you are released from PE during the duration of your sport, come back at this date. So they're going to be in there for a good 3 weeks, and they come back at the end. They get a prep in between them because their activity is being done with their team. Okay, if that makes sense. Again, you can't fill a class in during that time. It's really to compensate for time lost. After school, they're going to practice. Other students are going to study. So now they get to use that time during the day to actually use for their studies, relax on that. So that's kind of how the PE prep setup looks. Other things about PE and forgetting or not? Okay. So also there was art classes, the CTE classes. Again, just be aware if it's a semester course for the CTE, that's the one in the middle bottom. Our right side talks about one of the few courses we do offer as an 8th grade class, just because it doesn't meet frequently. We have the advanced problem solving, and we have the stage tech. So that's something they can do for that. Special programs, we have a team, which I think they're having a parent night February 12th. That's on our date list. They've come and talked to your students already about the team program. I would say if you're interested in being in a team, definitely come to the parent night. We'll go over the whole setup for that. The thing to know for this, though, if they want to do team, they still fill out all regular courses. They just click team as like an 8th class, and then we will shift them into the team courses for them. Last thing on there, I'll cover AVID. We have a high school AVID program. Some of you guys may be involved in the AVID program in the middle school, which is fine. High school programs are different. We just have a different focus. So our AVID program in high school is really helping students navigate the college-going process, how to study, how to be prepared, which classes to take, how to be successful in those classes. We have an AVID lead person that works with myself and advisor to really give focus on strategies and obtaining the grades they want to be competitive and eligible for college. Target student, any student that feels like they're doing okay but think they can do better, a little more support, that's what we're looking at for that class. My current seniors was our first class with the reboot. It's been a great experience watching those guys figure all that stuff out, seeing them now apply and get into colleges. It's been a lot of fun. So if that's something you think would benefit your student, definitely you look into the program, or if you want to add it, or if you want more information on the website, I'll tell you the contact person. You can also email me about questions about Apple as well. So, all right. Backside, top part is athletics. So basically we're asking if you're planning on going out for a sport, let us know. Doesn't mean you're on the team, doesn't mean you made the cut. We just want to know what sports you're taking so we can try to navigate when those sports release times are versus the classes you're taking. What we don't want to have happen is you have a bio-H class 7th period and you're missing it every Wednesday because of soccer. Just make those two up, so I don't really conflict. But stuff like that, So if we see that students going out for something as best we can, keep that thing over, as best we can, we'll try and move them around, when we can. Not always we can, but as best we can, we'll try and do that. So that's what we want to know, kind of what you guys are taking. Any questions about athletics, though? Yeah, on the website, there's a link on there later. You want to go and definitely start talking to coaches in our athletic department. All right. Also, below that sheet is kind of what we started with. It's the graduation requirements, years in each class, the comparison between college and high school. That's on there. All right. So out-of-district 8th graders. So if you're not in district right now, you probably haven't gotten a presentation. So what we're going to do, we'll have a one-to-one meeting with me for sign-ups to put you in the appropriate courses. Okay. And so instead of doing the Infinite Campus, because right now everyone else is going through Infinite Campus, we gave them that one form that's more like a worksheet. They enter the class in Infinite Campus, you sign it, and you send it back to their home sites. Out of district, once you've been admitted and you have your pink slip, that allows you then to contact Ms. Tonga, our secretary, to set up a meeting with me to one-on-one put you guys in. Okay? Can't before you have the pink slip. The pink slip signifies you're actually in the system, so you cannot skip that process. But definitely you want to make sure you are following the district steps. They have a site on there talking the steps and what needs to happen when. You definitely want to follow it to the letter to get access to the courses selected. Let's see. Anything else that I'm missing? Oh yeah, students got to be at the meeting. So when we sit, we want the student present, okay? Because they're the ones actually going to be in the class. We want to be able to discuss the options and get their feedback of what they're going to take for next year. All right. Dates to remember. Okay, so this is when you guys are turning in the course selection based on school sites. For JLS, February 14th, we did the first. For Jordan, February 20th, we're in the middle of doing Jordan now, we'll finish by tomorrow. Terman, February 22nd, to their guidance office. Yes, the guidance counselor there. We go back to pick up these forms. Jordan, February 22nd and 23rd. JLS, February 27th, 28th, and Terman the 26th. That's a 5-minute review meeting. It's very quick. So we told them if they have questions, fine, definitely come with them, but it's not going to be like a real in-depth one-to-one. We're just trying to go through it a little bit. Okay. The portal opened February 5th, so you can actually go in and put classes in. All right, which is fine, but again, the areas we're looking for you guys to get recommendations, have those conversations so they can inform decisions about the proper placement for next year. Portal closes March 1st, 2018. It's rare this happens, but I have had students who haven't turned it in because parent or family is getting advice from someplace else. That's fine. Do not do that. Do not risk not turning it in and missing that date because of that meeting. Rather, you get something in on file, and then if you have to make some changes later, then we can work through that process versus not turning it in. We build courses based on signups, so if we don't get the signups, we don't know the total capacity we need for those classes. Dates to remember, okay. Out of district students, so March registration services will send out a NIT slip to confirm enrollment. So they have their timeline on the website. I would say definitely go read through that if you're in this situation. March, April, and May is when we start the one-to-one appointments with me to help put you guys into the system. Other dates. Okay, so the team meeting we talked about February 12th. If you're interested in team, definitely attend that. They'll go a lot more in depth. They presented to the students already, and now they'll talk to the parents and your student about kind of what's going on. 7 p.m. is that one, Palo Student Center, which is across the way. Fall sports start date, Friday, August 3rd, over the summer. So over the summer, we're not here, the website becomes key. It's got your links, who to talk to, that kind of stuff. So you definitely want to utilize that. Communicate about the sports that they're thinking about trying out for something that's in the fall. The site is there, polyathletics.com. New student orientation, Thursday, August 9th. Mr. Hall was here earlier, runs that with our link group. It is an awesome transition event for the students. So I understand a lot of you guys go on vacation. I would say if it's all possible, be back so you can attend this date. What they're doing is they're taking current students that will lead your student around, they get to meet someone who's older, talk about their experiences, how school works from another student. Get acclimated to the campus. We've got a lot of new things going on. There's places on this campus I haven't even seen, to be totally honest. So they'll get the full tour of everything here. Then we feed them at the end of the day. Ms. Kim feeds them personally, oversees it. It's a great day. It's a great way for them to start off their 9th grade year. Okay, and then after that, first day of school, Monday, August 13th, as we get the ball rolling. Questions? That's it? Yeah, that went too fast. If I went too fast, I apologize. You might just take questions or anything you want to add? I'm tired of hearing me talk. Thoughts and comments?
Hi,
Let's just get questions.
hi. Can you talk about the language placement test?
Sure. So the question was, can we talk about language placement tests? So as Mr. Taylor said, the requirement is through level 2 of a language, so that's the graduation requirement. Most freshmen will come in at level 1 of the language. Some will come at level 2 if they've taken a level 1 in their current middle schools right now, if it's a district middle school. Out-of-district students will take a placement test to see where they place in their language, and current PAUSD students who think they will place higher than level 2 will need to take a placement test. And that will be, I believe, April 26th, if I'm not mistaken, but it'll be on our website, palo.net. Does that answer your question?
So you definitely want to go to the language site that talks about the steps, how to set the implement, all that kind of stuff on our website.
Sorry, they've taken Spanish at their current middle school for 2 years, then they go to level 2.
Is it a district school? Is it PAUSD? Yeah, if they've taken 2 years of Spanish, then they probably will want to take a placement test. If you think the student needs to take level 1 or 2, they can just sign up. Anything beyond that is going to be through the placement test.
But what if they test out of it? What if they meet the requirements?
That's a great question. So the question was, what if they test out of the language? Okay, so there is a way that students can test out of the language requirement. Or let me just say this: there's a way a student can meet the language requirement without having to take the class at Pali. They can take the SAT subject test in that language, or the AP test in that language, and that will serve as meeting the graduation requirement for world language. If they do that, then they will need to meet the 20 credits of world language some other way, at elective or field. Yeah. So to graduate, a student always needs to have at least 220 credits. The way they get there might vary. Great.
So about foreign language, so for graduating, it's 2 years?
It's through level 2.
So it's level 2?
Correct.
Oh, okay. So it's one language up to level 1 and 2?
Correct. So the question was the graduation, there was a clarification. It's not completion of level 2, it's through level 2. So we allocate 20 credits of completion for world language, but the graduation requirement is actually to meet through level 2. The reason we do that is because colleges validate a language based on the premise that the next level is built on the previous level, right? So if a student completes the higher level, the assumption is that they have achieved mastery in the previous level, and they're fine with that. Because we allocate 20 credits for world language, they'll need to make up, if they've only taken Spanish 2, for example, at Pali, they've met the graduation requirement, but they'll need to make up that 10 credits some other way.
In foreign language or just in general?
In general, in anything.
Depends on the class.
Yeah. One of the things that Mr. Taylor did with in the presentations with the whiteboard that we didn't have the opportunity to do here is he kind of broke down the math, and he talked about it a little bit here, but just to reiterate, so we have a 7-period day, so students have the ability to take up to 7 classes per year. So that would be they have the ability to earn up to 70 credits per year. 70 credits times 4 years of high school is 280 credits. The graduation requirement is 220. So there is a 60 credit buffer in which they can take other courses or they can advance. We don't have many students. Who are worried about reaching that 220 credits. They're well beyond that most of the time. Okay.
If my child needs to take a placement test, so what it is in April 26, what do I put on the form, which you do way before for language? Do I put level 2, level 3?
Oh, good question. So the question is, if my student needs to take the placement test in April, what course should I choose for them when I do the sign-ups right now? That's a good question. I would say put them in level 2 for now of that subject, and then we can change it after the placement test. Just to give you an idea of how this works, student requests drive the creation of the master schedule. So I work on the master schedule, so I will get all the data of your students' requests. That will tell me how many classes to offer of that certain subject, right? So it is not a one and done thing for me. I start this as soon as I get the data, and I work on it up until the first day of school. And there are changes and changes and changes. Now, in an ideal world, we want to create this master schedule, and we want to have it done by the end of this school year, so that we can tell teachers what they're going to teach next year, because that's always nice. So for their peace of mind, also a lot of teachers like to get some extra training, they like to plan out their lessons, their curriculum, all of that stuff. So it's always the best thing to do for teachers if I can tell them what classes they're teaching, with the caveat that it might change, right? And so I'm always constantly making changes. So when Mr. Taylor talked about, make your course selections, be thoughtful in your decisions about what courses your student wants to take, it's because it's what tells me how to create the master schedule. Now, can I tweak things, and do I tweak things all the time? But if there are major shifts, then I run into a little bit of a problem, right?
Question.
Question.
So what if the student is not taking the language in the middle school, but learning on their own? Can they still take the placement test?
Yes.
Yes.
So the question is, what if the student didn't take the language at middle school, but they're learning on their own? Can they take the placement test? So the World Language Department asks for anybody who might have prior knowledge of a language, and that might be based on an immersion program, it might be based on language spoken at home, or for some other reason that they would encourage you to take, the student to take the placement test. Right, Rebecca?
When is the math placement test for students out of
The
district?
when is the math placement test for students out of the district? I believe it is going to be in May. Probably not meant to see if he has looked at it. He usually offers one in May and then another one in August.
With team, is math included in team or not?
Good question. So the question was, for math, is math included in team or not? It is not included. Team includes English, social studies, and biology, or bio-H. Okay, right here.
Can in-district student take the math placement test?
The question is, can in-district math students take the math placement test? No. So, I'm going to be very careful when I say this. The math placement test is for students outside of the district. In the district, we ask students to work with their current math teacher. The math teachers do give us their recommendations, and we are trying to work it out so that they will have it in time for students to be able to see the recommendations, but if they don't, then we encourage them to have that conversation with the math teacher.
So is there a chance that a student, 8th grade student, can skip algebra if he's learning it from somewhere else, not from middle school?
So the question is there a chance that an 8th grade student can skip algebra
Or geometry?
or geometry
Right, if he's taking it outside of school.
if he's taking it outside of school? We want students to take algebra and geometry for a full year in the classroom. Especially for geometry, because universities want to see geometry taken for a full year in the classroom. Algebra 1, if it's not taken for a full year in a classroom, we have seen that it is usually not successful for students when they return to Algebra 2. So we want them to take a full year in a classroom. Question here.
How do you determine whether a child can enter into biology or biology H?
Sorry, what was the question?
How can we make the determination whether the child can enter biology or biology H?
That's a good question. So how do you determine whether or not we want our students to take bio or bio H? That's going to be a decision with the family. In our course catalog that your students, if they're in district, they receive today, some Jordan students will receive it tomorrow, we can get to them today. But it is on Pally.net right now. If you go to the science department, they did a wonderful job in creating a chart that really defines what the differences are between bio and bio H and the recommendations and how long each course takes per week, homework and whatnot. And so after you read that, I would make a thoughtful decision. I also would recommend that you talk to the current science teacher.
Because a child enrolled, for example, in Jordan, taking the regular biology class, could enter both biology classes. They would have the good requirements. In theory.
In theory, yes. Yes.
Okay.
Just a related question to that. So if you don't do bio honors in 9th grade, can you still do chemistry honors in 10th grade?
Yes.
So the question is, if you don't do bio honors in 9th grade, can you still do chemistry honors in 10th grade? The answer is yes.
Also follow up to that. So if a student chooses, say, bio H and then decides that it's too advanced and wants to do the regular one or vice versa, can they change after a year starts, or they are stuck in whatever they chose?
So the question is, if a student chooses bio H and then they decide after the year starts that it might be a little bit too advanced, can they request to change to bio? We want the student to have the best schedule that they can have. Now, there are limits to that, right? So if a student wants to switch a class, we try our best to switch lanes. We try our best to help them. If that's the situation, let's say within the first 2 weeks of school, I would say probably not a problem. If it's further in the year, just because it tightens up a little bit, it all depends, right? But we want to help. We want to help students. So if we can, we'll try. Yeah.
Can you also explain the difference between geometry A and geometry A? Is that the same as bio A or bio?
So the question was, can I explain the difference between geometry A and geometry H? You are really testing me today. So our math department, PAUSC's math department has lanes in math. And you can see the different lanes of math in our math department section in the course catalog. Usually what happens is, A is a lane and H is a lane. So if a student is in Algebra 1A, they'll usually go to Geometry A. Okay? If they're in Algebra 1A now, is it 1A and then to GOH? No, sorry. 1A to GOA, and then if they're in, there are many requirements, I'm sorry.
So great question. I'm definitely going to defer to math department. I'd say you want to look on the description of the class. My experience is going to be a couple of things. There's going to be content and application. So as you get deeper in terms of an A class and an H class, there's going to be more requirements for you to be able to apply the knowledge, if that makes sense. So they'll have more questions in the GOH to show that they can take that and now apply it and extrapolate it out to deeper meaning. Then you're going to have the regular geometry. GOA kind of starts to set you up for that, if that makes sense. But you're going to get less application in the other one. Okay, that makes sense.
Just a related question, like, if you're in district, like if you're coming from JLS, isn't it the current math teacher that's going to decide the math placement?
Great question. So the current math teacher is going to give a recommendation, okay? Student gets to choose where they want to go. I'd say coupled with that conversation and family conversation what's perfect. My thing about like A and H courses is just time dedication. You got to know that if they're going to do an A or an H, especially in math, they need to really follow that math formula. Meaning it's not just homework, say the night before take a test. They're thinking that you are going to take the time to actually learn the material, study, practice, and then look at how to apply the material, which is something you don't do just doing the review sheets the day before. So it's more like the time commitment to the course. Can it be done? Definitely. I think the kids I work with that struggle is because they haven't figured out that formula of preparation. That's the teacher can support that. What does it look like to prepare for this class? They prepare for exams. They'll give them the layout. Some students just kind of revert back to what they've done in the past, if that makes sense. They just definitely want to embrace that. I had one other comment too, just the situation we talked about, the testing out. I would still recommend taking the placement test for us, because it's just a free assessment of where your kid is. And I think it also activates our language department to give suggestions on when and where to take, to test out, or if there's what the combination would look like if they're going to take it at Palo. So I think that would be a good thing. And I think to your comment too about the Spanish 2, you're saying, and then the extra elective credit, we're going to recommend they go to Spanish 3 after that anyway, so that fits the 3 credits. So if you're technically going to be an elective class in their tally for our transcript. Yeah, go for it.
I have two questions. One, to tie back to biology, what happens if they sign up for the H and decide it's a little too tough midway through the semester? Do they, on the second half of the semester, go to regular or the bio A?
So change place, just like Ms. Kim said, if it's early, yes, most likely you can do it. A lot of it's space available. Doesn't mean their schedule might stay the same to get them into a regular bio class and have to move things around, but definitely want to try and support that. After that, there's going to be dates, kind of like the last day to drop kind of thing. So they want to make a decision before the current dates. If they stay through the semester and realize the semester is too much, the semester, that's fine to make the change. It's hard, we wouldn't be able to do it like late, like a week before finals or something like that.
And one of the things I would say, just to throw in there with our teen classes, their bio week classes are combined. So it's really easy to change.
Second one?
Yeah, the second question is, you mentioned something about dropping off the form by February something,
Okay.
and then on the portal to do something by March 1st. Are we supposed, after my daughter turns in her form, are we supposed to go to a portal and submit the?
So basically the form is generated from the portal. So you go on the campus, enter the classes, you print that out. That's what you're giving to the teacher. So to print it out, you've gone into the portal already. That's what generates one.
So we need to go to the portal and fill something else, not just the manual form that you guys gave us.
Yeah, that's just a worksheet. You go in and you enter the classes in Infinite Campus. And that's what will allow you to print out, parent will sign it, and bring it to the school. Go for it.
You talked about the PE prep period and playing a sport.
Yeah.
Does the school give a prep period for students who are doing an activity after school that is a very intensive athletic activity, it's not a school sport?
So great question. For 9th grade, no. It has to be a poly sport to get the prep. Okay. And say this carefully, feel free to correct me. In 10th grade, there's other options. If it's a sport that, there's a criteria that the PE department will review to see if they meet eligibility to do that situation. It's rare, and it depends on what they're doing and kind of the level of competition that they're in to do that. I've had a few kids that have done that were, I don't say they have to be Olympic level, but they're like Olympic level type stuff. But but they'll review the situation and see if that fits. And you can submit that in 9th grade for 10th grade, but for 9th grade PE, it's required. If it's not a college sport. Let's work back this way. I'm sorry, and we'll come back here. Let's go over here and then back that way.
So related to the PE prep period question,
Yeah.
What is the motivation students would take the 0 period PE to open up the hours a day? I mean, what are the typical?
What's the motivation to sign up for 0 period?
Right.
It's got to be intrinsic. I'm not motivated that way, so I don't know. But,
is there a logistical reason for which people?
I think you said it. I think it's the prep during the day to have that time. Maybe they're early risers. They feel they can get it done, or maybe they're feeling they're going to be doing a sport and they might get a prep during that time. But I think it's really the prep during the day that they get back after.
And they finish earlier too.
I asked the students, I said, who in here loves to wake up really early? And we had 4 hands go up, and I said, the 4 hands that are up are the only people who should be considering 0 period.
The thing that class is packed every year. Go for it.
Yeah, so I have a couple of questions on this athletics and PE. So
what's the relationship if they sign up for athletics? Does that sort of substitute for PE?
Yeah, good question. So just make it clear. So PE is the only thing that gives you the credit for a PE class. So all they're doing is if you are doing a sport, instead of double dipping, having to do the PE routine and sport routine, they're going to release you while you're in season. That's going to be your activity. And then when you're done, you come back to the PE class. But the PE class gives you the credits. Here's the other thing too. Requirements that need to be done in ninth grade PE, they're going to do that with the students before or after they come back. So the stuff that they're missing is kind of more just the athletic stuff that they're going to be getting in the organized sport. But credit is awarded through the PE class.
So the second question is, so if they're signing up for some athletic, some sport, does the practice for that, like, take them out of the regular classes, like, periods 1 through 7, or is it outside of that?
Practice is after school, yeah. It's not during the day. So it's whatever their practice time, that's when they go practice, it's not class time. Part of what the prep also addresses, I was saying earlier though, that after school practice time, that's where other students are going to study. So they miss on that time. So the prep allows them to kind of make that up. They can do some studying on campus, access to teachers, that kind of thing.
So just to add on, the practices will not occur during the school day. It's always after school, but contests, the games might conflict with the class time, so they might have to be released early from school. We don't control the schedule for games. That's controlled by our league. So, and every school is dismissed at a different time. So sometimes for some sports, students might have to be dismissed early for a game. They'll be dismissed earlier to travel to a game. It all depends.
Yeah. Perfect. Well stated. Go for it. Great question. So she asked language placement test. Is it only in April? I would say no, but I would say you want to take it as soon as you can so you can get you in the appropriate course. I think they are going to offer a second one in August.
Yes.
Yeah. So if at all possible, I'd say do the early one so you can get that settled. Your schedule is kind of locked. Okay. Again, part of this is we have so many students, so doing things late is just not ideal anymore. Go ahead and we'll start with that. Go for it.
JV sports count for getting it back to PE. Do all sports, like JV, freshman, all sports, any sports
Yeah.
that don't count?
Great question. I believe all the sports listed on that form get a prep.
Correct. The only thing that is a little bit up in the air is cheer and dance, and here's why. So the reason, not the reason, for the agreement was for a student to receive a prep from their PE class was that they're going to be in a sport that meets at least 10 hours a week. All the sports that we have, traditionally they meet at least 10 hours a week. Cheer has changed from year to year depending on the coach. So 5 years ago, they didn't meet 10 hours a week, so they didn't meet that requirement, so the kids didn't get a prep. 3 years ago, the new coach, she changed it, and they did meet, so they did get a prep. So that's always a little bit up in the air, and we're just careful to guarantee it for cheer and dance. But the trend has been to get the prep for cheer and dance.
One and two. Go ahead.
So question about band. If a student is doing band right now in middle school and they want to skip ninth grade, not doing band and come back to band later on, is that a good thing or band has to be starting now?
Mr. Wilmer would say no. Take the band as soon as possible. So your question is they've been doing band, they want to take a year off and come back to it? Yeah, they can do that. But with that, the thing I love about band is it's very, especially for ninth grade, transitioning in, it's just a great soft landing spot. Something they're familiar with. They'll meet the teacher, get into the program early, and get a feel for what's going on, and then build through the program. With that, I know sometimes you can burn out on stuff, but I would say, consider starting in high school because it's a different experience, different location, and that kind of thing. But technically, to do that, yeah. That's the last minute and we'll get back. Go for it.
So, completed that in sport, what do you sign up for? Because the sport, this time is done after school. What do you sign up for during school? Because they're going to come back to school.
PE, you just have to repeat it.
Just that PE course, any PE course
Yeah.
that you want, kind of concept, and that's and during
Not during the sport time. So you sign up for PE, and that's what gives you credits. During the PE time, while you're in season, you get that period off. Yeah.
Free time.
Yeah, so say, we call it PE prep. So say it's second period, they have PE, they're doing football season, coach submits the roster to me, JV football team, PE teacher will get that roster, call those kids aside, say, okay, you guys are released until this date, come back at this point in time to conclude PE.
Are they supposed to go to a place?
Great question. They have a prep. It's high school, so they kind of have free roam. What do we suggest? Someplace that they can, okay, so my suggestion, someplace they can like at least work on it. They don't have to be working 24 hours, but someplace they can get stuff done. I'd say quiet and functional. If your student is hanging in the MAC, I love the MAC, not the best place to study. It's kind of more of a social thing. So I'd say that's a conversation to have. How are you using your prep during that time? Let the kid decide, I want to do this, I want to do half, I want to do study the other half, I just want to like relax, that's fine. But you don't have a plan. Great question. Last one, then we'll move back over. Go for it.
Is the teacher advisor one of their regular classroom teachers, or could it be just anybody on campus?
Great question. Best we can, will match students with their TA at some point in the 4 years. Just all teachers don't teach all levels, so we'll try to do that as best we can.
And if they are in a team, is it more likely to be a team teacher that's their teacher advisor, not necessarily?
Yeah, the team.
It will be a team.
Yeah, team teachers are their advisors. So they'll get to have that program.
The form where they sign up for the sports and team, I believe, is that a campus form or is that a separate form that we create?
So that white form we had, that's the form we gave the students in the presentation, okay? They should be bringing home at some point. It's a worksheet to kind of look through and see what they want to do, talk about it. They can look at that and of course catalog to get more information description. And then when you guys decide, you enter the corresponding numbers into the portal.
And then just do both forms have to be set?
No, one is just a worksheet. So after going to the portal, you'll be able to print out what you entered, that's what you're going to print out. Yes. Okay. They can still be friends. So a couple percent, I think everyone's impacted in terms of like.
It's a question about your students coming here but wants to go to gun?
So it's
That's a good question for the registration services. You can always submit an intra-district transfer request, but they'll be able to better guide you on the process and the chances.
Yeah. I contacted students later because there's the links are filling up, so you want to address that and they'll kind of go for it.
For EC and CSU requirements, the committed number of years for math and science, is that regardless of what the student wants to do?
Yeah, it's not related to what they want to study. Yeah, it's just related to what they're, oh, well, good question. On paper, it's not related to what they want to study, it's a suggestion for certain areas. If it reflects an area they want to study, even better. Okay. Now with that, if you have students who are art focused, they might not want to do extra science, that's fine. And again, that's not to say if they don't do those recommended areas, they're not going to get in, we're still eligible. Okay. It's going to depend also on school, that kind of stuff. So that's a great question. I think once students understand more where they want to go, that's what college group kind of help guide them. My response would be, you want the student to go with flow into what they like and what they want to study. You want to be able to select that. Go for it. Sports, like up the NCAA clearinghouse? Physical form for the doctor, is that part of the August 3rd?
Oh, good question. So August 3rd is the first day of tryouts. For a student to be able to try out, they need to have a physical form and paperwork that is cleared by the athletic department. So that'll need to happen before August 3rd. Go to paliathletics.com to find out more information about that process. And we did reiterate that with the students this week.
Go far back.
Yeah, typically in a freshman class, what percentage of students end up taking BioA and GOA?
Nah, good question. I don't think I know the answer to that one, to be totally honest.
I don't know if I want to tell you the answer. No. It's been an interesting trend. When I compared BioH numbers, this year's BioH numbers to the year prior, I would say it jumped significantly. Last year we had about 1/3 of students enroll in BioH. This year we have a little over half. Okay, so I'm going to have to talk now.
So with that,
with this, it was a really interesting dynamic today, right? So we were having these conversations. Mr. Taylor does the presentation. The kids asked so many great questions, just like you all did today. I can tell they're your kids, right? So they're good questions. And then we're packing up to go, and I see 3 girls huddled together, and they look terrified. And I said, "Are you okay?" And they said, "Well, we're not going to graduate." And I said, "What do you mean?" And these girls were part of the good questions. They were asking great questions. And so, we took some time to calm them down. You're going to be fine. Their teacher was in the class too, so their teacher obviously knows them well. You're going to be fine. Don't worry about it. And so, we're noticing this, there's a lot of stress. There's a lot of hype. There's anxiety, And so, there's a difference between having a lot of questions and wanting to know things, versus just being really, really anxious and almost in distress about it, right? We want to calm everybody down. Your kids are so smart. They will be fine. They will be absolutely fine. We stress balance in their lives. In fact, I'll tell you, I say it and I'll tell you today again, it is so important for our kids to have something else connected to the school outside of the classroom. For some students, that's band. For some students, that's athletics. Some theater. For some, it's the math club or the science club, right? But something that gets them out of bed, that just keeps them going. Because, we all have bad days. People are not going to want to come to school every single day. They're not going to be jumping out of bed. But you know what they do get excited about? They get excited about their activity. That one activity that connects them to school. And so while you're having these conversations with your kids, talk about that as well, please. Because it is so important for our kids to be well balanced. And that's why, I talk about 0 period PE. Don't take 0 period PE because, you think it's the good thing to do, to get up early and start your day, if you're not that type of person, right? If you're not that type of person, don't try to fit that mold. Because if you're not that type of person, it is perfectly okay. We are all different, we're unique, it's what makes the world interesting, right? And so we gotta encourage that of our kids. And just, keep with them and encourage them, they'll be okay. So I want to encourage you, right, to be that person for them. They're gonna be fine. We still have questions? All right, here's what I'm gonna do. If you're okay and you'd like to leave, I'm gonna have those of you who are in that space right now, you may leave. Let's take a 3-minute break, and then how about the rest of you come forward? Because I can't see your face